like it didn't have to do much.
What about collaboration though? Because I did hear from a couple people in the chat that they really want other, like what Beatrice is saying, and I heard other people say it too. It was frustrating not to have people collaborate. Are there any solutions to that or any thoughts we could do differently for next time, especially in debate prep?
I mean, we can't really do anything about it, but we should like have like the teacher asking us like how we feel about our teammates, and then just speak up on that since they won't do anything.
Yeah, I agree with you.
What would you like to do differently for next time? Anything about the debate?
I think when it comes to specifically, like you said, collaboration, if after like a day or two and the same people are consistently not doing anything, then now they need to be moved to their own group and they need to do that slide on their own, because if you're not doing the work, I'm not going to let you not doing the work impact my grade. I don't have time for that. Okay, this is already hard. So, like in that sense, like put them to work on it on their own, and that's their grade. Because why let it impact the entire group when we're literally working hard and you're just sitting there doing whatever you're doing?
Yeah, so I will take that recommendation for next time. I like that. Then that group would have to do like their own, they'd have to submit their own work. I also feel when I do this in the classroom, we do assign like attack defense like leaders, like people who are like leading those questioning rounds. And that kind of happened without me having to assign. So I know that like Beatrice and Shanique on your team, we had Corbin, we had Sincere, we had I'm trying to think if I'm missing anyone on the other team, right? But it would be nice to know that other people contributed to the questions. So I gave you a lot of time to prep. I also gave you a lot of time to develop questions. What would you do differently knowing that that time is going to be cut in half next time? Especially with the questions round, is there something you recommend for the questioning to build your questions that you could do differently if you knowing you're going to have less time next time?
If we have less time, I would say like questioning needs to be considered part of like a main slide. So it needs to be considered a main slide instead of like a separate slide on its, well, it's going to be a separate slide on its own, but instead of it being a separate time or like a separate day, it needs to be considered a main slide that needs to be basically assigned to a couple people. Even though we're all going to still speak about it and provide questions, it still needs to be assigned so that we can get everything out of the way without it being, a hassle or like not being finished.
Yeah, I think the struggle with questions is that like you can come up with a few questions before you even debate, before you even hear their opening statements, right? Just by so I think what Shanique, what I'm hearing from you is while you guys are prepping for the debate and finding evidence, you have one partner, small team, who is thinking of questions just by placing their opinion on the other side of the prompt, right? So let's say if Elisa and Nicholas, like they were the question people, but you hadn't heard Sincere and Corbin's like argument yet, they could still come up with questions, right? Just by putting their brain in the other side's shoes. Like, is that what you mean? So they would have like at least 3 good questions going into the debate that they could bring to the table.
And work on even after hearing the debate. At least they have like a format. So if like they need to change something small in the question to make it more specific to what the other team said, they still have like an outline.
I like that. We talked in the last class how it's so difficult to take notes because people are speaking, rather quickly, and are there any suggestions for note taking? Because after all, the better the notes, the better the questions, right? Any strategies for note taking while the opponent is debating?
When I do during note taking, I just find keywords and I build off those keywords. Like I find something, I try and find the weakest point, and then once I find the weakest point, I just try and build off of that. That's what I usually do.
I think it's super effective that when you're questioning your opponent, you start with what you heard. Like, I heard your team say, but isn't it the case that, so you're flipping it, right? I heard you say, but really, then that way you specifically are defeating it. And then Nicholas has something in the chat. Start from putting yourself in the other shoe so you can think and ask better questions. Absolutely. So I want to say thank you to both teams. You've taught me a lot about how to think about debate, and I appreciate you coming to the table and taking a lot of academic risks. If we think back to growth mindset, you are pushing yourself. You're pushing yourself to that next level with academics.